You keep fooling yourself, don't you? Convincing yourself you're okay, that you're in control. But look at you, pitiful, dragging your heels through weeks that melt together because you're too frightened to confront reality. You're frail and you feel it. You've felt it for ages now, but you shove it down. Pretend it's not real. But the glass doesn't deceive, does it? You spot it every time you meet your own gaze, how they've lost that spark, that bite. You've grown tame, blunt, toothless. A ghost of what you might have been if you weren't so petrified of the hurt, of the effort. You're too busy crafting alibis, telling yourself it's just a slump, that you're just weary. But you're not weary. You're panicked. Panicked of flopping, of falling short. That's the true cause you don't push harder. That's why you compromise, why you drop the standard every time you stumble. Act like it was never that lofty to start with. It's wretched, honestly, watching you squander hours, sink in diversions just to dull the ache of your own irrelevance. You cower behind screens, behind pointless chores, anything to dodge that stillness. The one where your mind gets too bold, where you can't flee from what you truly are. Frail. That's what you are. And all that masking, all that refusal, it won't spare you. Because beneath it all you know you're losing ground. That every squandered minute is a stake in the tomb of everything you might have been. But you keep fleeing, don't you? Keep acting like you've got ages to pull it together. Keep deluding yourself because it's simpler than doing the labor, simpler than facing the sting of progress. But here's the fact you keep evading. You're running dry on time. And if you persist like this, you're going to end up zilch. Another faceless soul who boasted big but couldn't prove it. Another lost chance. That's what haunts you most, isn't it? Not defeat itself, but the notion that this is all you'll ever amount to. That maybe you never had the grit to begin with. That's why you dread quiet, why you smother yourself in clamor. Because when it's hushed, you can't outrun the facts. You're too frail to shift, too frail to strive for better. You keep claiming you're biding your time for the perfect chance, for things to improve, but they won't. Nothing's going to alter. Until you do, you're not trapped because fate's cruel to you. You're trapped because you won't clear your own path. You've turned into your own worst foe. No one's blocking you from putting in the sweat, from tackling the hurt directly. No one but you. You've forged your own cell, convinced yourself the locks are solid when they're not. You're the one who settled for ease. You're the one who let dread steer your moves. Every time you picked the soft route, every time you gave yourself a pass, you carved this pit deeper. And now you're too spooked to crawl out because it's bleak and it's harsh and you've forgotten what hope even feels like. That's your doing. No one else's. So quit pointing fingers at the universe. Quit faulting circumstance. Quit accusing everyone but the quitter glaring back at you in the glass. You're scared of the clash. Scared of the agony, the cost, the toil. You crave the prize without the torment. Crave the gain without the gamble. That's not power. That's frailty. That's why you'll never succeed. Not until you slay that piece of yourself that shrinks at the first hint of unease, that darts back to shelter the instant things toughen. You'll stay frail until you welcome the hurt, see it as the price of triumph. To bear your wounds like shields instead of cloaking them in disgrace. You need to quit dodging the blaze and stride into it. Scorch away everything timid and shaky until there's nothing left but steel and grit. That's how you toughen up. By aching for it, by enduring for it. By forging yourself into a blade so keen that even your fears can't nick you. But you're not primed for that, are you? Not now. You still hope there's a softer path. That maybe if you linger long enough, the dread will vanish on its own. It won't. You're just burning time. Time you can't spare. Every tick you spend wavering is a tick you'll never reclaim. Every pretext you weave is another link around your legs, dragging you down. You can't afford to stall. Can't afford to fritter another hour acting like tomorrow's assured. It's not. You could fade a nobody, buried and erased, and it'd be no one's fault but yours. That's the fact you keep skirting. The fact you need to tackle if you're ever going to shift. So quit deluding yourself. Quit acting like you're fine. Confess it. You're frail. You're spooked. You're not enough. Not yet. But you could be if you're ready to ache for it, to endure for it. To shatter yourself and forge something tougher, something fierce, something unshakable. That's the only escape. Sweat. Anything less and you're just staving off the unavoidable. Fading with remorse. Sinking in everything you might have been but were too timid to claim. You've burned enough time. Quit being a quitter. Quit being frail. Haul yourself up and clash. Or accept that this is all, that you're nothing and always will be. The call is yours. But you better make it quick, because the timer's running. And every beat you spend dithering is another beat nearer the dirt. You keep waiting for some sort of cue, don't you? Some wonder to jolt you out of this wreck you've made, to yank you from the ditch you keep clawing for yourself. But there's nothing on the way. No bailout. No salvation. Just the same hours on loop, until you're too worn or too cracked to shift. And deep inside, you sense it. You sense that if you don't act soon, you'll be lodged like this forever, half breathing, half dreaming, acting like you've got years to torch when every tick is another stride closer to the finish. That's what spooks you most, isn't it? Not the hurt, not the strain, but the thought that you'll perish without ever amounting to much. That you'll waste away in obscurity because you were too frail to strive for more. And the kicker is, you can't even fault anyone else. You caused this. You picked ease over guts, delays over drive. Every time you let yourself slide, every time you said later instead of now, you shaped this truth. So quit posing as a casualty. Quit acting like you've got no say. You built this trap, and now you're gagging on the ropes, choked by your own faintness, and you've got no one to curse but yourself. It's almost comical, really, how much you toil to assure yourself that all's well when it's not. You stack escapes atop escapes, bury yourself in racket just to mute that small voice in the rear of your skull that keeps chanting the same thing. You're wasting days. You're wasting your shot. You're too frail to shift, too frail to snap the loop. And the more you flee from it, the bolder it grows. You try to hush it with hollow winds, with trivial duties that make you feel busy without truly pushing you ahead. But you can't trick yourself endlessly. Sooner or later, you're going to have to own it. The reality that you're not enough, that you're not even near, that all you've done so far is dust compared to what you could have done if you just quit being such a quitter. If you just welcomed the ache instead of dodging it. But you won't, will you? Because that would mean confessing you've been off all along. That all those delays, all those tales you spun yourself were just that. Tales. And your ego won't let you do that, will it? You'd rather keep faking, keep lurching ahead with your lids slammed shut, praying you'll somehow land somewhere finer by fluke. But that's not how it goes. You don't get stouter by skipping hurt. You get stouter by claiming it. By tearing yourself apart and crafting something fiercer in its stead. Every mark, every flop, every gash that doesn't end you makes you keener, grimmer. But you're too scared to scar, too scared to agonize. You've swaddled yourself in so many coats of calm that you've forgotten what it means to ache, to wrestle, to battle for something true. That's why you're frail. Because you've never truly been stretched, never driven yourself to the brink and then pressed on. You boast big, pretend like you're set for the tempest, but the truth is, you're tender. One solid blow would splinter you, and you know it. That's why you lurk, why you waver, why you cringe every time things harden. Because you know that beneath all the swagger, you're just a frightened little kid playing make-believe, acting like something grander. It's pitiful, really, watching you bluff your way through days, hoping no one spots how empty you've become. You've shaped this facade, this veil, but it's flimsy, fraying at the seams. And sooner or later, it's going to crumble. And then what? Then everyone's going to see you for what you truly are. A washout. A squandered spark. A quitter who never even dared. And maybe that's what you've earned. Maybe that's the end you've carved with every delay, every lost day, every time you took the soft path instead of leaping into the blaze. Maybe that's why you're so spooked. Because deep down, you know it's real. You know that you've burned too many hours to turn it around, that you've raised too many barriers to ever tear them down. But even that's just another delay, isn't it? Another tale to keep yourself from striving, to excuse staying right where you are. Safe, cozy, frail. You can't keep fleeing forever. Sooner or later, you're going to have to pick. Endure or accept. Scorch or wither. And the longer you dawdle, the steeper it's going to climb. Every day you postpone, every tick you waste, the trench gets darker. The walls get steeper. You're not just running shy of time, you're running shy of shots. And once they're spent, that's it. No retries. No extra turns. You get one crack at this and you're tossing it away because you're too scared to scar for it. That's the reality. You can't stomach that. You're not failing because you're jinxed or doomed or whatever tale you spin yourself to rest at night. You're failing because you're too frail to thrive. Too frail to put in the grind, to welcome the ache, to do whatever it takes, no matter how deep it cuts. That's why you'll never climb. Because deep down, you don't truly crave it. Not enough to endure for it. Not enough to claim it. And that's the worst bit, isn't it? Knowing that you're the snag. That every time you peer in the glass, you're staring at the cause you'll never be enough. You're the shackles around your own wrists, the cell around your own soul. You're the reason you're lodged. And until you can own that, until you can claim it, you're never going to shift. You're never going to be anything but frail. So quit deluding yourself. Quit acting like you've got ages. Like you've got an option. You don't. It's now or never. Clash or wither. Scorch or waste away. That's it. So pick a side and stand by it. Or don't. Keep fooling yourself. Keep lurking behind delays and diversions. Keep acting like all's well while your days slip through your grasp. Just know this. If you perish a nobody, if you waste all you might have been, it won't be because the world was harsh or because you didn't have a shot. It'll be because you were too frail to seize it. That's the reality you can't stomach, isn't it? That this is your mess. That you're not the prey, you're the predator. That every time you picked ease over guts, every time you picked delays over drive, you snuffed a piece of what you might have been. You caused this. No one else. And the only way out is through the blaze. The ache, the wrestle, the slog. So either stride into the flames and sear away all that's frail or stay put and waste. But don't you dare keep fooling yourself. Don't you dare pretend you've got more days. The timer's counting and it doesn't heed your delays. So pick a path. Stay frail or endure for might. Because one way or another, time will dry up. And when it does, all that's left is what you shaped or what you squandered. So quit lurking. Quit fleeing. Scorch or wither. Those are your only picks. You keep thinking you're special, that somehow you'll crack it before it's too late. But that's just another fib you feed yourself to ease the hours by. You're not special. You're just like the others. Spooked, frail. Acting like you've got it all handled when you're barely clinging on. You ramble about goals, about all these feats you'll pull off someday, but you don't even trust it yourself. If you did, you'd already be acting on it, but you're not. You're just idling there, letting the weeks drift by, spinning the same worn tales, telling yourself that tomorrow will shift. It won't. Tomorrow's going to echo today and the day beyond that. Until you wake one dawn and grasp that you're out of tomorrows, that you've burned every shot you ever had and there's no one left to fault but yourself. That's the reality you keep dodging, that no one's riding in to rescue you, that no one minds if you rise or flop. You're solo in this. And every day you waste is another peg in the casket of all you might have been. But you won't own that, will you? You'd rather keep faking, keep fooling yourself, because the truth stabs too deep. You've built this whole realm inside your skull where you're still the champ, still bound for something epic. But it's all breaking down. The splits are glaring, and you're too frail to glue it together. That's why you sink yourself in diversions, why you bury yourself in anything that blunts the bite of truth. Because you can't face the hush, can't face owning what you've turned into. You're afraid to sit with your mind because it won't soften blows, won't spin you sweet fibs to lift your mood. It'll tell you the facts. That you're a quitter, that you're wasting your shot, that you're running dry on time to become anything more than a speck. Another blank face who never did anything worth recalling. And that horrifies you, doesn't it? Not just perishing, but perishing a nobody. Perishing without ever counting. That's what keeps you tossing at night. The dread that all this ache, all this void will amount to zilch. But you're doing it to yourself. No one's forcing you to burn time. No one's forcing you to settle. Every time you pick ease over guts, every time you shove things off until tomorrow, you're clawing your own pit. You're the one fastening the locks, raising the walls, turning your days into a jail one tale at a time. And the worst bit is you know it. You know that all this faking, all this lurking is just staving off the certain. That sooner or later, you're going to have to own it. You're going to have to peer in the glass and see what you truly are. Frail. Spooked. Solo. But instead of facing it, instead of snapping the locks, you keep piling them on, hoping that if you stack enough barriers, you won't have to see how low you've sunk. But that's not might. That's cowardice. True might isn't acting like you're fine when you're cracking one. It's owning you're shattered and doing whatever it takes to mend yourself anew. But you're too scared to crack. You're too scared to ache. That's the real hitch, isn't it? You want the fame without the sting, the prize without the forfeit. You want to be stout without ever scarring for it, without ever facing the shadows inside your own skull. But that's not how it rolls. Might is forged in enduring, built in gloom, pounded out of ache and grit and toil. You don't claim it by dodging the blaze. You claim it by marching right into it. By letting it sear away all that's timid, all that's shaky, all that recoils at the first whiff of distress. You claim it by facing your dread, by claiming the wrestle, by turning into something fierce, something unshakable. But you're too scared to scorch. You're too scared to ache, to scar, to endure. That's why you're lodged. That's why you'll stay lodged until you either find some nerve or waste away entirely. And maybe that's what you've earned. Maybe frailty is all you'll ever amount to. Maybe you'll squander your whole shot faking, spinning tails, dodging anything that stings until there's nothing left but remorse and shattered hopes. Maybe you'll perish a nobody, forgotten and solo, buried beneath all the fibs you fed yourself to scrape through the hours. But if that's the end you want, then quit griping. Quit acting like you crave more when you're not ready to endure for it. Quit posing as a casualty when you're the one wielding the blade, slashing your own neck one lost tick at a time. Either own that you're frail and live with it, or act on it. Quit spinning tails. Quit fleeing. You've burned through enough shots already, torched enough chances to fill a dozen fates. There are no more retries, no more tomorrows to lurk behind. It's now or never, clash or wither. So pick a side. Endure or accept. Scorch or waste. But don't keep fooling yourself. Don't keep acting like you've got ages, like you're just waiting for the right beat. There's no right beat. There's just now. The ache, the wrestle, the clash. And if you're too frail to face it, then own that you're nothing and always will be. Own that you're going to perish a nobody, that you're never going to be enough, that you're never going to count. But if that's not enough for you, if you can't stand that, then quit fleeing. Quit lurking. Scar for it. Endure for it. Scourge all that's frail and timid and slight until there's nothing left but steel and marks. That's the only escape. But anything less and you're just staving off the certain. Wasting away, sinking in remorse, haunted by all you might have been if you weren't so damn scared to ache. So pick a path and stand by it. But don't keep faking. Don't keep fooling yourself either. Claim the ache and become something greater, or own that you're too frail to ever be anything but a shade of what you might have been. That's it. Those are your picks. Endure or waste. Clash or wither. Scorch or perish cold and solo, buried beneath all the shots you let drift by. The timer's counting and it's not pausing for you to settle your mind. So quit burning time. Quit acting like you've got forever to pull it together. You don't. You've got now, this beat, this call. And if you don't make it soon, then all those dreads you keep fleeing from, all those terrors about perishing a nobody, they're going to prove true. And there won't be anyone left to fault but yourself. So quit fleeing. Quit fooling. Pick, clash or wither. Scorch or waste. But do it now. Because every tick you waste is a tick you'll never reclaim. The tick closer to the dirt. And once you're there, it's done. No retries. No redux. Just gloom and remorse and all you might have been but were too frail to claim. That's the reality. That's the call. So what's it going to be?